Warnings, mentions of death, committing suicide. Daisy's POV. We were driving over the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, California on the way to our new house, far away from Boston. The sunlight shows through the car windows as my daddy drove our car. My mommy, who was staring outside the window. My older sister, Violet, who is 15, and a goth, is sitting next to me in the back seat, with our 6-month-old dog, Hallie. Dad, isn't it beautiful? Mom, the light is different from Boston. Feels like I can see more. I thought it was supposed to be all foggy. Violet speaks up, I need to go to the bathroom. Dad refuses to pull over for Violet, it's just a little while longer. Violet begins to beg, I need to go, Daddy, where would you like me to pull over, sweetie, the Bay or the Pacific? Violet rolls her eyes and whispers to Hallie, I bet if baby substitute had to shit you'd find somewhere. But, obviously, Mom heard her, I don't like that word, Violet. There was a beat of silence before Violet looked out the car's back window. 1,300 people have jumped off of this thing, she said, meaning the Golden Gate Bridge before she continued to speak, at least that's what they think. They don't seem them all and they stopped counting right before 1,000. I looked it up. 26 of them survived. You know what all of them said was their first thought after they stepped off. Violet smirks mischievously, then her eyes widen, oh shit, our mother's discomfort makes Violet grin, kind of how I feel about this move. Violet begins to rant, I'm not going to like the school. San Francisco is filled with hippies and freaks and drug addicts. Daddy, I'm glad we named you Violet instead of our second choice. Violet, which was? Daddy, Sunshine. We all laugh at what my parents would have named my sister when she was born. I ask, what about me, Daddy? What would have you and Mommy named me? Daddy smiles as he looks at me in the mirror, oh, honey. We always knew, Mommy looks at me, you were always going to be our Daisy. I ask, you're one and only. Mom and Dad in sync, our one and only Daisy. I smile to myself. My dad reaches out to hold my mommy's hand, but she moves her hand away. We pull into the driveway, and we all took a good look. To everyone, it looks better than it did in the pictures. To me, I see a house, a mansion, a beautiful castle. There was a "for sale" sign in the front yard. We all take it in, as we come to a stop. Daddy, this is it, picks me up and he carries me as I wrap my arms around him, and we smile at each other, as my mother and my sister smile at me also. My mama is unsure, my sister is deeply intrigued by the house. A lady meets us at the front porch with a wave. The lady began to show us around the grand house. The foyer was epic with the beautiful soaring ceilings, and a grand staircase to top it all off. The lady, who met us out front of the house, began to talk, it's the finest queen and on the market. Venetian chandeliers, original moldings. The stained glass is some of the only of its kind that survived the Great Quake. As you can see, the previous owners really loved the place like a child. They restored everything. My mom secretly asks the lady something, and the lady responds to my mother in the same tone. We head into the kitchen, and it is absolutely beautiful with its looks of originality along with all the modern bells and whistles. Marcy, do you cook? Daddy, Viv is a great cook. I got her cooking lessons a few years ago for her birthday and she ended up teaching the teacher a few things. Marcy, cooking lessons. Romantic. You're a psychiatrist. Daddy put me on his shoulders, psychologist. You said something on the phone about there being a study upstairs that I could use as a home office. I'm planning on seeing patients here so I can spend more time with the family. Marcy, how refreshing. Mom shakes her head. As I play with my hands on my daddy's head like a drum, Violet stares out of a window as she watches Hallie bark like crazy. My mom looks to my sister, Violet, will you go see what's going on with Hallie? Like the teenager she is, Violet rolls her eyes as she storms out of the room to check on Hallie. Marcy then shows my mom, dad, and I a Gothic library. Marcy, this is my favorite room in the house, my dad tried to whisper to my mother. When I saw the pictures of this room online, I thought maybe you could use it as your music room. Marcy sparks up, you're a musician. My mom, my dad speaks up, she's a cellist. She played in the Boston Philharmonic. My mother walked over to the wall, and Marcy takes notice, why did you quit? My parents neglect to answer Marcy, as my dad places me on the ground. I run to my mother, who smiles down at me, and holds my hand. She looks back to Marcy, this wallpaper is coming off. My mom gently pulls the wallpaper off. It opened a small window, which was no bigger than a couple of postage stamps. Mom, I think there's a mural under here. Marcy, the last owners must have covered it up. They were modernists. Speaking of the last owners. The topic becoming difficult for her to continue talking about, full disclosure requires me to tell you about what happened to them. My mom's eyes widen, oh God. My mom covers my ears, one of them didn't die in here, did they? Marcy, yes, actually. Both of them. My mother continues to cover my ears, murder-suicide. I sold them the house, too. Just the sweetest couple. You never know, I guess. Daddy, so that's why it's half the price of every other house in the neighborhood. Marcy, I have a very nice painted lady not too far from here, but you're going to get a third of the house for twice the price if you go that way. My parents became unsure as my mother took her hands off of my ears. My sister comes in carrying our family dog. She asks Marcy, where did it happen? Marcy, the basement, she answers with confidence present in her voice. Violet puts Hallie down as she pulls me in for a hug, one where I am facing our parents and Marcy, as her head falls upon my own, and her arms hug me from behind, a very sisterly pose, indeed. Violet grins as she announces, we'll take it. The movers finally finish bringing the last of the boxes in, as Marcy pulls the "for sale" sign, and exchanges it for one that says, sold. After moving in, I brushed my teeth, got my pajamas on. My parents and Violet said goodnight to me, with a bedtime story and a lullaby. Vivian's POV. Ben looks at me, come to bed, we'll finish this in the morning. He said, meaning about unboxing our moving boxes. I look at him with a worried expression. I say, I'm worried about Violet. I know Daisy will be fine, but Violet. She's right about kids being different out here. She can't handle another year of not fitting in. Ben rolls his eyes and looks at me, you mean, you can't? He clears his throat, I treat kids like Violet every day. In 3 months, she'll have lost all of the dark eye makeup and combat boots, and be walking around in Birkenstocks with unshaven pits smelling like patchouli. I laugh at the memories as he takes me in his arms, and then I ask him, it doesn't freak you out at all? What happened here? Ben responds with, my repulsion is tempered by the fact that this house is worth 4 times what we paid for it. I speak up, but it's not like some old lady died in here. A murder-suicide. Gives me the creeps just thinking about it. He tries to enlighten our talk, so, don't think about it. I look at him like he is kidding, that's your professional advice, doctor. Ben, no place is perfect. No place and no person. All I know is that for the first time in months, I feel at home somewhere. Moving here, buying this house was the right thing to do for our family. It's a good thing, and frankly, we deserve some good after all the shit we've been through. He then realizes his error, sorry. I nod, but I am not still having feelings of uneasiness, but with me, being desperate to trust him, I let him kiss me. Another fleeting moment, this one kiss was out of marital bliss, but I could not sustain it. I was the one to pull away, and I left him to go do some more unpacking. That next day, I awoke for school. My first day at a new school. I can see why Violet doesn't want to go, this stuff is nerve-wracking. I ate my breakfast, brushed my teeth, got dressed. Violet helped me with my hair, she smiled in the mirror and kissed my forehead, I smiled at her too. I grabbed my backpack and shoes, and headed out the door. Violet was dropped off at her new school, then I was for my first day at my new elementary school. Thanks, Mama. We hug and she smiles at me. You're welcome, sweetheart. Have a good first day. Violet and I will be here later to pick you up. I smile, okay. I get out of the car and I wave, bye. She smiles, bye. And takes off in her car. Vivian's POV. After dropping both Violet and Daisy off at their new schools, I arrived back at the house. I dropped then needle on an old record player, and classical music plays as I set out my instruments. I also set out a large bowl of water and some scraping tools, like a scraping tool and a small knife. Slowly and carefully, I begin to remove the old wallpaper. The Goya-esque mural begins to reveal itself. I can't quite make out what the first image is, until I pulled off more of the silver paper to see. It was a woman, her face, bent in pain, her body, twisted and tortured. I was disturbed and transfixed by the artwork that I was seeing. I felt a hand touch my shoulder, and I jumped out of my skin. I looked to see that it is a girl. A girl with brown hair and eyes to match. I also noticed that she has Down syndrome. A woman stands behind the girl. She looks to be in her 40s, with blonde hair, and eyes that match the girl's. The young girl says, "You're going to die in here." The woman behind her shouts, "Adelaide." She walks through the kitchen carrying a box. She says to her daughter, "Adelaide, I put Dora the Explorer on for you, so that you would sit and watch it." Adelaide corrects her, "It was Go Diego Go. I don't like it." Her mother replies with, "Brown cartoon characters. You can't tell the difference." I don't know what to think about this, so I continue to breathe, to calm myself down. The woman introduces herself finally, "Hi. I'm Constance. Your neighbor. The tear down next door. This is my girl, Adelaide." She turns to her daughter, "Go home, Addie." She shouts when Addie doesn't move a muscle, "Now." Adelaide storms out, as her mother continues to speak to me, "That girl is a monster. I love her, and I'm a good Christian, but Jesus Christ, if they'd invent some of those tests a few years earlier." I interrupt her with a question, "How did you get in my house?" She answers, "You left your back door open." I have to warn you, Addie seems to always find a way in. She's got a bug up her ass for this place. Always has. You got a dog? I clarify, "Yes." Is that a problem? She answers with, "Better for me. I run a little kennel out of my house. Doggy daycare kind of thing. Don't bother calling the cops on me. I'm in with one of those city managers, and he always looks the other way." I interrupt again, "Look, it's very nice to meet you, but I wasn't really prepared for company. Constance, I'm gone. Brought this for you. A housewarming gift. Addie wanted to cook you a pie, but she tends to spit in the cooking, so I figured this was better." She hands me the gift, and I accepted it, "Should help you get rid of some of the bad juju." She continues to speak, "Those homosexual boys were nice enough," and I say, "Live and let live," but I can't help but think that lifestyle drove them to do what they did. She is about to leave, but then she turns to me, "I can't remember your name." I look at her and I respond with, "I didn't tell you. I'm Vivian Harmon." "Constance, anyway, enjoy, relax, let me know if you need help with your pup. Glad you're getting rid of that wallpaper. Thought those people were supposed to be stylish." As they leave, I can't help but laugh at their oddness. I shake my head, and I open the box that I received from Constance. It is a tightly wounded bunch of sage. Through the window, I see Constance walk back to my house. It's sage. For cleansing the spirits of the house. Too many bad memories in there. After school, I walk outside of the building. I actually had a pretty good first day of school, and truth be told, I made a lot of new friends. I hear a whistle, I look to my right, and I see my sister. My eyes widen, and my smile beams like the rays of the sun, Violet. I run over to her, and she scoops me up in her arms when we reunite. We hug, and then she asks me, "Did you have fun at school?" I look at her and I smile, I painted a picture. She says, "Yeah." And I add, "With a bunny, and a rainbow." Then a car pulls up next to us, and it is Mama. We all get in the car, and Mom drives us home, after the school day concludes. I hear a voice when we come home, one that does not sound like ones that belong to me, my parents or Violet's, so, that could only mean one thing: Daddy is with a patient right now. Daddy's voice, these fantasies started 2-3 years ago. The male voice, 2 years. I got the inspiration for a song, so I headed upstairs to my room, and I begin to write and record it with my very own precious sound system. Ben's POV. I just finished my first therapy session with my first newest patient, Tate Langdon, when both the boy and I hear singing, "This night is flawless, don't you let it go." I'm wonderstruck, blushing all the way home. I'll spend forever, wondering if you knew. I was enchanted to meet you. Tate asks me, "Who is that singing?" I put 2 and 2 after school, I walk outside of the building. I actually had a pretty good first day of school, and truth be told, I made a lot of new friends. I hear a whistle, I look to my right, and I see my sister. My eyes widen, and my smile beams like the rays of the sun, Violet. I run over to her, and she scoops me up in her arms when we reunite. We hug, and then she asks me, "Did you have fun at school?" I look at her and I smile, I painted a picture. She says, "Yeah." And I add, "With a bunny, and a rainbow." Then a car pulls up next to us, and it is Mama. We all get in the car, and Mom drives us home, after the school day concludes. I hear a voice when we come home, one that does not sound like ones that belong to me, my parents or Violet's, so, that could only mean one thing: Daddy is with a patient right now. Daddy's voice, these fantasies started 2-3 years ago. The male voice, 2 years. I got the inspiration for a song, so I headed upstairs to my room, and I begin to write and record it with my very own precious sound system. Ben's POV. I just finished my first therapy session with my first newest patient, Tate Langdon, when both the boy and I hear singing, "This night is flawless, don't you let it go." I'm wonderstruck, blushing all the way home. I'll spend forever, wondering if you knew. I was enchanted to meet you. Tate asks me, "Who is that singing?" I put 2 and 2 together in my own mind, before I realized, oh, don't mind her. That is just my daughter. Blasting music in her room. Daisy's POV. I had to go to the bathroom, so I took a break from recording my songs, when I ran into a guy, who comes out of the bathroom, and we almost bump into each other. I immediately begin to apologize. "Oh, I am so sorry. I obviously didn't see you there." He smiles as he looks down at me, as he is taller than me. "Oh, it's quite alright, don't mind me." He is not only taller than me, he looks to be a boy around Violet's age. He has wavy blonde hair, with brown eyes that look like little chocolate chips. He had a smile, one that I am sure worked in his favor. He kneels down to my small height. "What's your name?" I didn't see the harm, Daisy. He smiles and he says to himself, "Daisy." I look at him and I say, "You must be my dad's new patient, right?" He says, "Yeah, I am. My name is Tate." We smile at each other, and then I excuse myself. "It was very nice to meet you, Tate." He says to me, "You too, Miss Daisy." After our meeting, I run off to use the bathroom. That night, I remember sleeping like a baby. Maybe it was because of a good first day at school. Maybe it was because of the move. Maybe it was because I met Tate. But, I will never know. After school, I started to help my mom with carefully working to take the wallpaper off the wall. The mural was becoming quite clear. Vivian's POV. The mural is of a woman being dragged into hell by a demon that is grinning. A maiden that is beautiful is splayed out on a bed with a monster sitting on her chest. I turn Daisy away from the inappropriate mural. Daisy's POV. After my mother turns me away, she calls out to my sister, Violet. Can you take your sister? I hear my sister respond, yeah. My mother also asks, can you take Hallie out? The next day. Ben's POV. I am in another session with Tate, but I notice my eldest daughter, Violet, is spying through a partially cracked door. I ask him, are you taking the medication? Tate answers with, yes. I notice that Tate is aware of Violet, as he turns to look at her. Violet gasps silently, thinking that I don't notice or hear her. I am thinking that she must be developing feelings for him. I continue to ask him, thoughts of suicide. Tate, not lately. I met people. Once again, Tate and Violet lock eyes. Violet's POV. I know what people would think by looking at all of this, if Tate and I are a possibility. Maybe we are. Maybe we aren't. I don't really know, but I am curious to say the least. After his therapy session with my dad, Tate and I began to play a music record. We sat on the floor as our shirt sleeves are both rolled up. Truth be told, I started cutting again a few days ago. I remember cutting myself as Tate shows me his cutting scars. He points to one, this one, I did when my dad first left. I was 10, I think. He points to another one, this one a year later. New school. Got beat up. I show him my most recent cut, last week, first day at my new school, which sucks. Tate asks me, Westfield, I nod my head, yep, Tate rolls his eyes, the worst. I got thrown out of there. I start to slump, I hate it here. I hate everyone, except for Daisy. All of their bougie designer bullshit, the East Coast was much cooler. At least, we had weather. He laughs slightly, you really love her, don't you? I look at him strangely, until he clarifies, Daisy, I mean. I realize what he means, yes. I really do. I was there when she was born, I saw her take her first steps, say her first words, I saw her when she crawled. I continue, you know, when she was first started to learn how to walk, she began to crawl to me as I clapped my hands for her. She finally stood up, and walked for the first time into my arms. And I just held her in my arms for a while. It was truly the most magical feeling that I have ever felt in my life. I finish, that's when I knew, I had to protect that beautiful baby, with my entire life, to protect her from everything that I was not protected from. He just smiles at me, yeah. I only met her for 5 minutes a few days ago, but I feel the same way about her. One thing we have in common, loving and protecting Daisy. He decides to change the subject, I love it when the leaves change, I smile a little, me too. He suddenly asks me, why did you move here? I say it how it is, my dad had an affair. My mom literally caught him in the act. His face turns to one of disgust, that's horrible. If you love someone, you should never cheat on them, or leave them. Never. My eyes widen, as I have finally met someone who understands that, right? I know. And the worst part, is that 6 months earlier, my mom, had this brutal miscarriage. The baby was 7 months old, we had to have this macabre funeral. Tate's face turns into one full of sympathy, I'm sorry. He takes my hand, but I was thrown by being touched. I change the subject, why are you seeing my dad? He answers me with, don't ask questions you already know the answer to. You're smarter than that. I nod, as what he is saying is true. I glance at my hand in his, and I suddenly feel self-conscious. I remove my hand from his as the song ends on my iPod player, You Like Craven? It's a new band. Tate, I've never heard of them. I get up to start playing a song by the band, they're really cool, they're from Oregon, the lead singer is dyslexic and a vegan. We hear footsteps come up the stairs, and we see that it is Daisy. Her face is all decked out in colorful and cute stickers. I'm all out of stickers. Tate and I look at her with nothing but adorableness. He says to her, "You are all out of face. What happened to you?" He picks her up, she wraps her arms around his shoulders. I pat, rub her back and say, "How about some mac and cheese, huh?" She looks to Tate, and she smiles, "Mac and cheese." He puts her in my arms and shouts in a funny way, "Yeah." The kitchen, spotless as it gleams from the rays of the sun through the windows. My mom enters with a bag of groceries. But, I noticed that she took a second. As she set the bag on the counter, she took out a jug of orange juice. Then, the sound of a firecracker snaps and pops. My mother jumps out of her skin as she turns and screams, as she sees that every cabinet door and drawer has been opened. It was a prank that both Adelaide and I pulled. Addie laughed like a maniac at the screen door. I laughed because of my mom's reaction. My mother was never really tough on me growing up. She was, but she wasn't. She did appreciate the prank, but she gave me a firm talking to about not scaring her like that, to whom which, I understood. She sent me off to go and play, but it might be eavesdropped on the conversation that she is now having with Miss Constance Langdon, our next-door neighbor, and Addie's mother. "Mom, I want you to stay out of my house, do you understand?" "Constance, can I smoke in here?" My mom replies with firmness strong in her voice, "No." She then looks to my friend, Adelaide, "Answer me, please." Addie, like an innocent child asks, "Can I pet your dog?" My mother remains stern, "No. I want you to stop coming into my house, opening things and telling me that I'm going to die." My father comes in on the conversation. "She said that?" Constance tried her best to reassure my parents by saying, "She says that to everybody." She turns to her daughter, "Addie, say you're sorry." Addie insists, "No. I didn't do anything wrong." "They did it," my mom asks, "Who?" Addie explains, "The Mischief Twins." Mentions of the twins spark my curiosity and interest. Addie and I didn't see any twins, so why would she say that it was a pair of twins who did it? Addie continues to pester my mom by asking, "Can I pet your dog?" Which leads to my mother's snap. She grabs Addie's face and demands her focus. "Adelaide, listen to me. I want you to stop coming in my house without my permission, am I clear?" My dad thinks that my mom has gone too far. "Vivian," my mom continues to pursue, "am I clear?" My friend quietly responds with, "Yes." My mom holds a face of relief, "Thank you." My mom releases Addie, who goes to leave, but frantically tries to put Hallie, who bites her. My daddy shouts, "Hallie." My mother, frantic, "Are you okay?" She asks my friend. Addie stands there for a minute as her face darkens. "You shouldn't have done that." She exits, as does her mother, who is right behind her, but turns to look at my parents. "Sorry about all this." She goes to my mom, with a tone of, "As a matter of fact, touch my kid again, I'll break your goddamn arm." She looks to my father, "Tell that darling daughter of yours, Daisy, that she is welcome at my and Addie's house anytime." He looks to Constance, "I'll be sure to tell her." Constance leaves. Not too soon after that I get my own gossip around this house now. I don't even need to go to anyone for gossip anymore. I hear Violet shout, "You are so sick. Will you just stick your dick in anything?" My daddy shouts back at my older sister, "Hey. Do not talk to me like that. Nothing happened in there. She was coming on to me, I was rejecting her. Violet didn't see the actions of our father, so fire her. Get her out of the house. She creeps me out anyway." My dad was known to be quite the persistent type. "I can't do that. I'll have to tell your mother why I'm letting her go. After all that's happened, she's not going to believe I was totally innocent." Violet didn't understand, with her. "Yes, she will." Dad had to explain it more easily to Violet. "Your mom and I are walking a tightrope right now, but we're making progress. I don't want to do anything to screw it up. I could hear the emotional sobs coming from my sister. I don't want that bitch cleaning my room anymore. After school, Violet comes home, with a bruised face. She was a total mess. Mom, what happened to your face? Violet, I fell down. I knew that Violet was lying, as I have seen this before with her. She didn't fall down, she got in another fight, but the first one here at her new school. I sensed the feeling that Mom and Violet wanted some alone time, and I didn't want to bother Dad, so I went to find the next person that I could do something with, our housekeeper, Moira. I find her in the kitchen. Moira, would you please have a tea party with me? I pull out my best puppy dog eyes and my pouty lip and I begin to beg her, please. 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 She gives, okay. Okay. With lungs like that, you could be a professional sponge diver. I smile big, thanks. The party is B.Y.O.B, bring your own boa. I leave the kitchen, looking forward to my tea party with Moira. I feel like Moira is the type that says, you will never see me going out of my way for these kids. Even though, it's a total lie, because she really goes out of her way for me, I say that she does. She enters my room, wearing her usual maid's outfit, a fluffy boa and a tiara. We sip our juice with the cups from my fancy teacup set. She also made a fresh batch of cookies, and scones for the momentous occasion. I say to her, I must say, Miss Moira, these cookies and scones are delicious. Thank you for making them. She smiles at me, you're welcome, my dear. We also got to make another batch of cookies, which was really fun. Overall, I had a fun day with our housekeeper, Moira. I feel different since we moved into the house. I try to be the happy 6-year-old that everyone expects me to be, but I don't know how long I could continue to be happy, when there is a certain energy in this house, that has me feeling one of darkness. I was sleeping in my room, trying to dream of dreams and not nightmares, when the house's alarm system woke me up. I shot up like a rocket out of my bed, when I felt footsteps heading towards my room. It was Violet. She sighs in relief when she sees me, and she cradles me in her arms. Are you okay? I nod my head and rub my eyes as I yawn. What time is it? Is it time for school, already? She laughs a little. No, honeybee. That was just the house alarm going off. It's not time for school yet, thank God. Here, she holds her arms out for me, and she puts me in them. She just cradles me in her arms for a while. She reassured me and she cradled me in her arms. Everything's okay, honey. Let's go back to sleep. I fell asleep again, hoping that this doesn't disturb my normal sleeping pattern, and my day at school later. When I fell back asleep, I felt protected. Not only by Violet, who I knew fell asleep beside me until I fell asleep completely, but I also felt protected by things that are not there, which makes absolute no sense to me at all. After a day of learning, I returned home with my sister, who proudly held my hand. We swung our hands back and forth. When we came home, our dad was gone. He had to return to Boston, something work-related, he told us. Violet thinks he is running back to the lady that he had an affair with. Ever since our father had the affair, the relationship between both him and Violet has been strained. I was hanging out with Violet in her room. She was reading a book while we also listened to music at the same time. We hear a knock at the door. Violet shouts. I turned it down. What do you want? It was Mommy, can I come in? I look to my sister, and I pull out my big puppy dog eyes. Please, sunshine. She gives as she rolls her eyes in a sarcastic manner. Okay. Okay. I smile big and I run to answer the door. When I did open the door, there stood our mother with a purple flowered cupcake and a chocolate chip cookie. Mom says, hi. Our kooky neighbor made you a cupcake. Then she kneels down to my height. She wanted to be sure that I gave a chocolate chip cookie to a Miss Daisy. I smile as I take my cookie. Violet smiles a little at the cupcake. Huh. A candied violet. That's clever. We walk back into her room, as our mom follows us. Wanna watch a movie? Figured since your guy's dad is gone tonight, we could have a little girl's night. Mom sets the cupcake on Violet's nightstand. Violet rejects the idea. Yeah. No thanks, I speak up, I want to. Mama smiles at me. That's one for the idea. Mom, thought it might be fun to hang out. Violet continues to reject the idea. Can't. Homework. Mom's curiosity spikes. Are you mad at me about something? Violet offers our mom the cupcake. Why don't you eat it since you're eating for two now? Violet questions. What? You think I'm stupid? She points out, you stopped drinking wine at dinner, and you're gaining weight in your face. I got excited as I hyped up, I'm going to have a new sibling. Mom continued to talk as she took me in her arms to playfully wrestle with me carefully. I was going to tell you two tonight. Violet, you know the statistics when you have a baby over 40. Mom nods her head as I get off her lap. Yeah. I do. You two want to talk about it? Violet continues to reject the topic that has to do with communication. No, thanks. I'm good. Violet speaks her mind. Having a baby isn't going to keep you and dad together if that's what you're thinking. Mom has had enough about this topic. Wow, Violet. I am really appreciating your optimism on this. Mom continues, really am. Come on. Go ahead and say all your mean things. Violet doesn't care. I think you're weak. Mom replies with, okay, in a soft voice, and she leaves the room. Not long after my mom left my sister's room, I look to Violet and I say, not cool, Violet. I leave soon after. My mom has already been going through a hard time with the miscarriage, the adjustments that come with moving, my dad's affair, and the new baby. The last thing she needs are people being mean to her. That's why he took Gladys upstairs and drowned her in the tub. My father's patient, Bianca, speaks again. Our Franklin was the first, before Manson. He changed the culture. We're paying tribute to him. She is absolutely crazy. I'll make sure to report this to the police when they take her and her evil, copycat, flop at the box office Scooby-Doo gang into custody. I hear thuds left and right downstairs, and I could only cry and worry about what could be happening. Violet's POV. I ran and ran, until I got pulled to the side by Tate. I look at him and I go, Tate, they're trying to kill me and my mom. He whispers to me, get them to the basement. My eyes widen. What the hell are you talking about? He clarifies, the basement. Just do it. I ask him, sis. He confirms my meaning, she's fine. Protected as always. Worried about you and your mom right now. The two girls took me away. This plan of Tate's better work. What about my mom, Ben? What about Daisy? Daisy's POV. The water from the bathtub begins to run. I continue to hear the voices of my sister, and the two evil girls coming from the bathroom. Time's a wastin', sister. Then I hear Bianca complain about stomachache. Violet shouts, answer me. What's he doing to my mother? Bianca, Jesus. I'm gonna shit myself. The other girl shouts, not in the staging area. I had to contain myself from giving away my secret location. I would have BV laughing about how Bianca was going to shit herself, literally after eating one of Constance and Addie's cupcakes that were intended for Violet. As sick as it is. Addie told me a secret. Addie's mom and her made sure to give a safe cookie to me. But, in the cupcakes, never eat those. Addie spits in them, to which her mother allows her to. Constance also put an ingredient in the cupcake recipe that could not only cause stomachaches, but also internal bleeding. Addie made sure that there were no dangerous things that were put in my cookie. She didn't even spit in the cookie mixture. Then I hear, it's 10:57. Get in the tub. I begin to hyperventilate, until I see a woman comforting me. She rubbed my back. She was a beautiful lady with brown hair and brown eyes, and she was also wearing a nurse's outfit. This must have been Maria. All Maria said to me was that, it is all going to work out. Your mom and sister will be safe. Bianca. It's almost time. You have to put someone under the water for 3 minutes until they lose consciousness. The brain begins to die from oxygen deprivation. Violet begins to laugh, but, I assume, for good reasons. You think this is funny? Violet, what's funny is that you know everything about this house and clearly you know nothing. Right on, sis. I say to myself. Second floor bathroom. I've studied the crime scene photos. Violet, the one he used is in the basement. We totally remodeled this bathroom. Violet surely did her research. It's a grimy clawfoot tub with a chrome faucet. The girl shouts, Bianca. I hear Bianca throwing up in another bathroom. Then I hear her yell, Fiona. As she walks down the hallway. I cover my mouth as I hear her footsteps on the floorboards that creak beneath her. Bianca, I think I need to go to the hospital. Maybe we could come back later and finish this. I hear her grunt and groan, then the squeak of her sneakers as she wanders further down the hallway. Then I hear the groans of a man downstairs, then the screams of a woman downstairs. I close my eyes, cover my ears and shake my head back and forth in a no notion as tears fall from my eyes. I could only imagine the worst happening to my sister and mom right now. I hear the door open and close. The man's voice from before, Fiona. The bitch is going downstairs. Which must mean, that the man and the 2 girls must either be gone now. I hear footsteps run into the hallway shouting my name, Daisy. Daisy. Where are you? I begin to pound on the door of my hideaway. The footsteps get closer and closer, as do the voices, which of whom I recognize to be my mom and Violet. I shout, Violet. Mommy. Then the doors open, and it is my mom, with Violet right behind her. My mom and Violet look relieved upon discovering me alive and safe, as my mom brings me into her arms, and Violet rubs my back. I calm down, but I will never forget what I heard on that night of terror. Violet carried me into the room, where my parents were discussing the events of the previous night with the police officers. Dad, Violet, your mom said that you told her that Tate helped you escape. I cradled my head closer to my sister's neck, yeah. Thanks for not dragging him into all that. Dad, what was he doing in the house? Violet, how should I know? Dad, Violet. Violet, you think I let him in? I don't know why Tate was here. But I'm glad he was. You weren't. Violet puts me down, and we instead join hands. She turns back to look at our mom. You were really brave, Mom. I agree, yeah. Then, we walk out of the room. It has been an entire week since the incident involving the intruders coming into our house, me hiding, then trying to kill Violet and my mom. I have been feeling more sad than ever. It's like I want to be alone more than ever. I feel like no one understands what I'm going through after experiencing that at a young age, being 6 and all. Tate's POV. I find Violet, who was sitting on the edge smoking a cigarette. He's a great dad. He really cares. You're lucky like that. She brings out another cigarette, after putting the last one out, and I light this cigarette for her. Ben's POV. I woke up in the backyard of the house after searching underneath the couch in my office. Constance, you won't find any gold buried out here. What are you doing down there in the dirt? Her laundry was hanging up. She was wearing black sunglasses with a black and white dress. I simply answer her with, I don't know. I keep finding myself walking up here. The same spot. Constance says, well, there's no mystery to it. It's stress. Teenage daughter. Little girl daughter. A pregnant wife. And your business hasn't found its footing yet. I can tell by the cars in the street, or lack thereof. But you'll find your way. A lady with blonde hair and eyes that matched the blue of the Tiffany stained glass window came to look at the house. Maybe she's interested in buying it. Yes, we are selling this house. I can't live here, not when I'm expecting and not what after my daughters and I went through. She asks me, do you have children? I smile and I nod my head, yep. I have 2 daughters. And actually, I'm pregnant at the moment. She smiles at me, pregnant? I had a child once. Her smile disappears and turns into a sad look. She then disappears. I took the girls to look at a temporary studio apartment. It would be close enough so that the girls could still attend their schools. Daisy's POV. The lady showing us around leaves, Vi speaks up, glad we moved all the way to California since we could be totally anywhere. Mom answers with, it has a certain. Violet, you and Dad both of you. You don't deal with anything. The affair, the miscarriage. For most people that's just life, and they deal. But you guys had to uproot everything, drag everyone across the country to start all over. Mom, honey, I don't think you've quite processed what happened to us and your sister in that house. That was devastating. That was a nightmare. Violet, this place is the nightmare. I love our house. It's got soul. It's where you and I kicked some ass, Mom. I gently pull on my mom's hand and she looks at me, I love our house too, Mommy. Violet, you say we were victims of something and there. I say that's the place where all of us in this room survived. Mom holds my hand, I love that you both see it that way. Mom, I'm pregnant. I can't stay there. This is the decision that your father and I have made for our family together. Violet looks to the side, yeah. Whatever. I release my hand from my mother's. Violet looks to Mom again, but I'm telling you. You go ahead with this whacked out plan, and I'm out of here. I will run away. And believe me, I know how to leave so that you will never leave me. Violet walks out of the room, and that is when I got pissed at our mom. You know, this could be the last time that we could ever be a family, and you plus Dad are completely ruining it. I hope you and him are very happy. I followed my sister out the door, but I look back at my mom. If Violet runs away, then I'm blaming you and Dad. I was walking around the corner of the house, when I heard my father talking to his patient, Tate. I've agreed to this meeting because we need to clarify a few things. My father adds, firstly, the psychiatrist that I recommended to you, Dr. Goldman, said you never showed up for the first appointment, and you never called to cancel. Tate shrugs his shoulders, I don't want to see anyone but you, Dad. We've discussed why that won't work. Which brings me to my next question. We're very grateful to you, Tate, for how you helped my family. But you need to explain, here and now, what you were doing in this house at the time of the break-in. Tate, the truth is, I was just, like, hanging around outside, and I was throwing pebbles at her window. But she blew me off. And then I noticed that the door was unlocked, so I went inside. It's not cool, I know. Dad, I understand. But this is why I can't treat you. If Dad says that he is not going to treat Tate anymore, then that means that I am not going to see Tate anymore. I immediately felt this sad sinking feeling in my small chest. Dad continues, it's inappropriate for everyone concerned. Tate begins to cry at my father's refusal. I really need your help. I don't want to be like this. I want to be a good person. I felt even worse for Tate. I truly believe that he wants help, and to me, he doesn't even realize that he is a good person. I listened to Tate discuss this matter with my father, and I know that you can help me. You're the one, okay? You're the only one that I can trust. Dad, I cannot see you in this house. I run away as I not only begin to hear the sad sobs of Tate, but the sobs of my own as well. Ben's POV. I hear footsteps run away from the office, but I had to focus on the task at hand. Now, look, I have an opening. I'll meet you someplace for coffee. But you have to promise me. Tate begs me, I promise you. Promise. No more weird shit, okay? I sigh. I decided to wipe the tears away, as I helped Moira decorate the pumpkins for Halloween. Mom, did Marcy bring those in? Moira states, yes. My mom smiles, oh, that's nice. Mom pays my back softly. Moira smiles, thank you. I enjoy crafts. Moira smiles in my direction. Daisy, over here, is quite the little artist. Mom looks at mine, whoa. Honey. You did that? I smile brightly, yes. I carved my pumpkin to look like Marie Antoinette. Something was telling me to make it look like a French pumpkin. Moira, Mrs. Harmon, a question. My mom turns to look at Moira, Moira, may I have Halloween off? I'd like to visit with my mother. I look at my mom, knowing the answer, but I wanted to beg, please, Mom. Moira works really hard. She should go see her mom. Moira and Mom smile at me in my innocence. Of course, my mom replies with. Moira smiles, done. My mom, I'll put that one outside. And my mom did just that. After I helped Addie become a pretty girl, like the one that she wanted to be for Halloween, I walked down the basement steps to meet Tate. I call out to him, Tate. I call his name out again, Tate, but I received no response from both of the times. I conclude, you said you wanted to meet at midnight. I jokingly call out, come out, wherever you are. I gasped at the sight in front of me, a figure in a black stretchy plastic bodysuit. It looked to be as stretchy as the kind that you could play with. I gasp and scream a little as the figure pulls me to a corner with his hand over my mouth. He then starts laughing, and I realize that it is Tate who is the figure, you asshole. He pulls the mask off. I scared you. I deny what he says. No, you didn't. Don't let Daisy see you with that thing, she'd be traumatized for life. He immediately felt bad, but I changed the subject. Where'd you get this thing? My dad threw it out. He says, finders keepers. I only thought one thing, jackass. He looks at me, really? I didn't scare you. I reply, I said no. Tate, I bet I can. Tate lays out a board of Ouija out in front of us, and he begins to tell me the story of the people who first owned this house, the people who built this place. Tate, Dr. Charles Montgomery built this house. And here, in this basement, is where he worked. Charles was a doctor to the stars, but he was also a drug addict. His wife, Nora, wasn't gonna let that get in the way of her lifestyle. So she set up a little secret side business. He would take care of girls who didn't want to be in trouble anymore. Tate, this went on and on until one day. One girl couldn't keep the secret to herself, and she told her boyfriend what happened. The boyfriend wanted revenge, so he kidnapped Charles and Nora's baby. Terrified, the doctor and his wife waited for the ransom demands. Tate, driven insane by his grief, the doctor used all his experience and surgical skills to try and cheat death. But what he created was ungodly and monstrous. Even after their tragic end, that thing remained down here, to this day. I look at him, oh my God. You are so full of shit. I don't believe you for a second. Forget it. I scoff, forget I ever asked. It was finally Halloween. I was so excited to go trick-and-treating later, for the first time in this neighborhood as well. Ben's POV. Halloween, and here I am, having a session of therapy and coffee with Tate, outside of my house. I looked around at all of the decorations that the town has put up, at all of the children in their cute costumes while smoking a cigarette of my own. Tate, she reminds you of Violet and Daisy, doesn't she? The sight brought me back to when Violet was small. She would dress up in costumes, scary costumes like vampires, while she wanted to maintain Daisy's innocence, by dressing her up in cute animal costumes like bumblebees, cats and ladybugs, because believe it or not, Daisy was a baby less than 6 years ago. While remembering the past, I say, she had to be scary, while Daisy had to be cute. My fierce girls. Just like their mom. Smart and beautiful. No need to be like anyone else. I state, the thing is I was a troubled kid too. I was kind of like you, Tate. I didn't hold out too much hope for myself. Not many other people did either. It was a total shock to everyone, including myself, when I became a doctor. But somehow I was given this amazing gift of family. He pats my hand, hey, it's gonna be okay, Dr. Harmon. I try to stop the tears that are flowing from my eyes. I'm sorry. Oh, God. I'm sorry, Tate. This year for Halloween, my dad is dressing up as a vampire, my mom as a witch, and I am dressing up as a princess. I had a feeling that Violet was not going to take me out trick-or-treating, but I didn't feel bad that she couldn't, because she deserved a night to herself. After I finished putting my costume on, I hear some conflict happening between my parents. I'm sorry I didn't tell you, but after everything that happened, after the break-in, I didn't want to add more stress. Dad says to my mom, hey, you had every right to react exactly the way you did. But believe me, Hayden is over. Hayden is the girl, whom my dad had the affair with in Boston, that state we used to live in, before we moved here, across country, to California. I didn't want to hear the annoying guy, whom my parents chose to help decorate the house, in hopes of selling it with a potential and interested buyer tonight. I didn't have a choice, I had to walk to my parents, with the annoying guy there. I say to my parents, okay. I'm all set, Daddy. They look at me, and they are absolutely adored. My mom gushes, ah, honey. You look so cute. My dad smiles, hey, you. He gives me a noogie, and I whine, not the hair. You know how long it took me to do this? He smiles, ready for some trick-or-treating. I jump up and down, yes. My mom pats my dad on the shoulders, and jokingly says, forget Violet. We still have some time with this one. The annoying guy enters and he looks at me in my costume. Now that is a costume. I love her energy. Daddy protects me, as he holds me, safely and tightly in his grasp, as Mom kicks the two annoying men out of the house. Dad sets me down on the floor. Are you okay? Mom, I don't believe you, Ben. You tell me your story, but there's a little glimmer in your eye. A little lie. A little darkness. And I don't want to live with suspicions anymore. So I want you to go. She was kicking my dad out. I start to cry, no. Mom. No. She pulls me to her side, as she separates me from my father. She continues, I want you to go. But then, the strangest thing happens. My mom starts to scream in pain, and I run to my father in fear and fright. He asks her, what is it? She gasps, it feels like the baby's kicking. Dad, that's impossible. It's only 8 weeks old. Mom, I gotta go to the hospital. Violet comes down the stairs, stay here, and don't answer the door. I drew a line in the line of confusion, don't answer the door. It's Halloween. I sit in Violet's room, where I am left to ponder who is going to take me trick-and-treating. Violet and I hear pounding at the door and ringing the doorbell. Screw you. You owe me. It looks like a man whom my sister and I have never seen before. Violet holds me close in her arms, not just because she is afraid, but also because she is protecting me. Violet calls our dad and I say, Daddy, there's some man here, screaming about money. Violet, we think he might be one of your patients. Should we call the cops? Dad said to keep the door closed, and to not call the cops. The alarm was triggered as my parents pulled up to the driveway of the house from the hospital. Violet. Daisy. Violet. Daisy. Our parents were frantic as they searched the house for my sister and I. I come out of my hideaway spot, the one that Violet told me to go to. Mommy. Daddy. My parents hug me. Mom, thank God that you are all right. Dad pets my hair. Mom, where's your sister? I ask confused. She's not here. Dad looks to my mom, call her cell phone. Mom was well underway with doing that. Driveway of the house from the hospital. Violet. Daisy. Violet? Daisy? Our parents were frantic as they searched the house for my sister and I. I come out of my hideaway spot, the one that Violet told me to go to. Mommy. Daddy. My parents hug me. Mom, thank God that you are all right. Dad pets my hair. Mom, where's your sister? I ask confused. She's not here. Dad looks to my mom, call her cell phone. Mom was well underway with doing that before our parents arrived the night of Halloween. Violet held me in her arms, as I buried my head into her shoulder. She took me up to her room and locked the door. She put me down on the floor as she put her head into her hands. There was a tapping on the window. Violet looked outside the window, and she saw that it was Tate. Violet's POV. I told Daisy to not leave my room, but she insisted to go with me, because she didn't feel safe to be by herself, after all of the scary events that has happened in our house recently. We held hands as she walked behind me down to the basement, where I called out to Tate, Tate. He smiles when he sees us. Hey. I sigh as I now carry Daisy in my arms. He beams when he sees her in my arms. I'm guessing she didn't want to be by herself. I shake my head. No. It's been insane here. First, the cops were outside. Then some freak started banging on the door, screaming about money. After our group hug, he pulls away, but continues to rub Daisy's back. Hey. Hey. Shit like that does tend to go down on Halloween. Probably just asshole kids. It's fine now. I'm here. He takes Daisy into his own arms, and she snuggles deeply into his arms, here to protect both you and Princess Daisy. He takes out a black rose and holds it out in front of me. Here. I painted it black. I know how you don't like normal things. I look to Tate. You're the first boy to ever give me a flower. He laughs as he cradled my little sister. I thank him. Thank you. I love it. He asks me, you ready to go on our date? Respond with, yeah. We look to my sister, who has fallen asleep on him. Should we take her with? I say, my parents will be here in a few minutes, maybe seconds. We decide to leave her here, and we leave to go on our date. My mom was able to reach Violet on her cell phone, but immediately after that, my mom put me to bed, in my pajamas. I cried in my sleep that night, because no one took me trick-or-treating and I had a pretty princess costume. The next day, I went to school, like a normal day, but for Violet, she chose not to attend school today. My dad had a patient today, and my mother was planning to go to the grocery store today as well. I suddenly realized that I haven't seen or heard from Addie lately, since before Halloween. I would like to go ask Mrs. Langdon about Addie today after school. When I got home, I had my mom help me make some chocolate chip cookies, so I could bring them over to Mrs. Langdon. I rang the doorbell as I held the cookies. Mrs. Langdon comes to the door. Who is it? She looks down at me. Oh, it's you, Daisy dear, come on in. She invites me into the house, and I gladly accept her invitation. I hold out the cookies to her, and she smiles. What are these? I say, these are chocolate chip cookies. My mom and I made them. She smiles. Well, thank you for bringing them over. She says, I would like for you to meet someone. I follow her to the kitchen, where a woman with curly blonde hair and in black business attire sat at Constance's kitchen table. Constance, this is Billy Dean, she is a medium. I smile as I shake hands with Billy. Hi, Billy. It's nice to meet you. I'm Daisy. I live next door. She points to me and says, you are Violet's sister. I respond with, yeah. Billy, there is someone who wants to speak with you. What do you know about Mary? I was shocked because Mary was the name of my mother's mom, my grandmother. I was too shocked to answer, so I looked to Constance. Mrs. Langdon, do you know where Addie is? I haven't seen her or heard from her lately, and I'm worried about her. She sat me down on her lap, and said, honey, Addie, she went to heaven. My face turned down. My mother and father explained to me what those words meant. It means that Abby is no longer here on earth. My smile turns into sadness, but I did not want Constance to see me cry and mourn over the death of her daughter, so I say, "Oh, okay." She gets up and says, "Hang on a minute." She comes back and there is a purple bunny in her hands. It was Addie's before she went to heaven. I know that not only would she feel better if you had this, but I would as well. Please, take it. I didn't want to disagree, so I took it, thank you. I give her a hug. She returns it as we smile at each other before I leave her house to return to my own. Constance, this is Billy Dean, she is a medium. I smile as I shake hands with Billy. Hi, Billy. It's nice to meet you. I'm Daisy. I live next door. She points to me and says, "You are Violet's sister." I respond with, "Yeah." "Billy, there is someone who wants to speak with you." "What do you know about Mary?" I was shocked because Mary was the name of my mother's mom, my grandmother. I was too shocked to answer, so I looked to Constance. "Mrs. Langdon, do you know where Addie is? I haven't seen her or heard from her lately, and I'm worried about her." She sat me down on her lap, and said, "Honey, Addie, she went to heaven." My face turned down. My mother and father explained to me what those words meant. It means that Abby is no longer here on earth. My smile turns into sadness, but I did not want Constance to see me cry and mourn over the death of her daughter, so I say, "Oh, okay." She gets up and says, "Hang on a minute." She comes back and there is a purple bunny in her hands. It was Addie's before she went to heaven. I know that not only would she feel better if you had this, but I would as well. Please, take it. I didn't want to disagree, so I took it, thank you. I give her a hug. She returns it as we smile at each other before I leave her house to return to my own. Constance comes over while I was on the phone. After I hung up the phone, I acknowledged her presence. "Hi, Constance. I'm so sorry about Adelaide. I've been meaning to make a condolence call, and I've just been. Constance, Moira tells me that you've been suffering terribly. That every time you leave the house, you're racked with violent morning sickness." I nod my head, agreeing with her. Constance, well, you know, my mother always recommended a big platter of offal during the first trimester of pregnancy. She preferred pork. I make sure to thank her. "Oh, well. How nice of you to think of me during this. I didn't know how to describe my pregnancy. I believe life is for the living, don't you?" She asks me. She unwraps it, sweetbreads. Now these two are thymus glands. One from the heart, one from the throat. And this is the pancreas. It's so good for mother and child. She begins to list off the benefits that would come if I ate this. Full of protein, vitamin C, all the B vitamins, and iron, and, speaking of which, how are your other babies? She was such a dear, sweet child and such a comfort to me when Addie passed. Daisy, the best yet, she brought me cookies earlier. She reminds me of Addie very much so. Daisy and her were such good friends. I tell her, well, they've been very upset. Spending a lot of time in their rooms. Constance, sometimes children going through transition just need alone time. I say, well, I can't thank you enough for the awful. She corrects me, awful. She wraps it back up, and looks to Moira. Moira, why don't you sauté these for Mrs. Harmon's lunch? Like, the way you used to do that for me before, remember? Moira, I'd be happy to do that for Mrs. Harmon. Constance opens the door. We need that baby. We need another sweet child around here. She leaves, and I still mourn for the sad woman. I hear something be dragged across the floor, and I hear Tate's voice. Don't you die on me, Violet. Don't you dare. I hear the water of the shower in the bathroom start as I hear him scream, Violet. I saw him drag my sister's body down the hall and into the bathroom. I put two and two together as I saw the sight and heard his screams. I run into the bathroom. Tate. What is happening in there? I scream when I see the sight. Oh no. Oh my gosh. I scream, no. With my fresh tears running down my non-dry face. Tate, dripping wet from the shower's water, tries to come near me. Daisy. This is not what it looks like. I didn't know what to think, but I did one thing: get away from me. Stay away from me. I cried as I ran away to my bedroom, with him chasing after me. Daisy. No. Love bug, no. I slammed the door in his face, and I continue to cry as I lay on my bed. He comes in a while later. He cradles me in his lap as I cry, and we hold each other close. In my pain, I yell out my sister's name, Violet. I continue to yell things like, no. And why? The next day, I saw my sister, alive. I guess it was just a suicide attempt that thankfully, did not cause her death. I was very thankful that she was still alive. But, I was still confused. How is she alive today when it really looked like she was dead last night? Tate asks me in my bedroom, do you believe in ghosts? I respond with a question, why are you asking me? Tate, I don't know. It can't all be shit, right? He seems confused about the subject as he looks to me. There's gotta be someplace better, somewhere. For people like you, and Daisy, at least. I ask him, not you. Tate looks back to the book that he was currently reading. Ever since you and Daisy got here, this is the better place. Daisy's POV. My mom and dad at opposite sides of the dinner table, eating away. I, like them, was eating at one end of the table, while Violet was at the other, but she was the only one at the table, who was not eating, not moving an inch. I could have easily mistaken her for a statue. Mom was sure to point it out, you're not eating anything. It was like, ever since her suicide attempt, she has changed. She is no longer the Violet, the sister that I had grown up to know and love. Now, Violet is just depressed and wants to be alone constantly. So distant from all of us, more so than when she was alive. Violet comes up with one of her responses, I'm not hungry. Pretty stuffed on bullshit. We were just told that our mother is not expecting just one child, but two. Our mother is having twins. Violet remained upset about the subject, but I was always excited. There is to be 4 of us, as siblings, Violet, me, and the twins. Dad, your mother and I know that you're upset. Maybe there's some things you want to talk about. There goes Dad, playing the therapist, called on her again. It was truly no wonder why Violet wasn't as open about her issues with our parents. Violet, like who I'm gonna live with after you get divorced. I start to cry and our parents look at me, you guys are getting divorced. You guys are going to separate Violet and I. Violet doesn't stop, is there a third option? 'Cause both of you, minus Daisy, kind of make me want to kill myself. Is that what you guys are afraid of? My mom rubs me in a way to comfort me. I ask myself, why am I so upset as to why my parents would be divorcing? Is this even really happening? I don't think it really is happening, just because Violet talks about it almost all the time. Violet, why else would you want to try and actually deal with the problem? Dad points out what he has been noticing with my sister, you never leave your room. You barely eat. These are textbook signs of depression. Dad, we're very concerned, Vi. Your sister is too. Violet gets up from the table, look, you guys drag me and Daisy all the way out here to save our family. Then you decide to break up. You buy a house that we actually like. Then you tell us that you're selling it. Without even asking us what we want. So, fine. I'm depressed. But I'm not gonna off myself. So you can go back to your policy of benign neglect. She leaves the room. And, now, I am the one picking at the leftovers of my food. My mother and father begin to fight, again. My father ends it with, do not screw up selling this house. I put my food in the sink, and I say, I lost my appetite. I leave and go to my room. I found Dad later, after I finished putting on my pajamas, to get ready for bed. Daddy. He looks at me as I continue to ask, are you and Mommy going to get a divorce? He looks at me with a look, one of sympathy. Ah, honey. He picks me up as he carries me to my bedroom. Violet and I began to look at pictures together in her bedroom. There were ones of a little baby, the house when it was first built, and a couple, a man in a suit with brown hair, a woman beside him with blonde hair, who was carrying their baby. I turned around as I saw Maria, the girl, whom was with me when the house was being invaded. Look what he did to me, was all she said. She must have been reference to our Franklin, the guy who murdered her and Gladys. I hear Violet behind me say, go away. She says that as she puts her hands on my shoulders to protect me. A little while later. Knocking comes at Violet's door, and in walks Mom. Can I come in? We continue to look at the photos, so, it looks like, this guy's pretty serious about buying the house. I mean, we won't know officially until it's actually in escrow, but I wanted to talk to you guys about it. Violet, well, then what? Mom, then I think, you, Daisy and I will go stay with your Aunt Jo till we find a place. I ask, what about Dad? Mom, well, Dad still has patience, and... Mom, I don't really know, sweethearts. We haven't figured it all out yet. This wasn't the way it was supposed to go, honeybees. Your dad and I really loved each other. Violet, how'd you know you loved him when you first met? Mom, well, he was handsome and kind. But I don't know. The thing is, when you fall in love, it's kind of like you go crazy, and before you know it, the whole world looks different. Mom, and then you'll do anything for the other person. Why do you ask? I knew Violet was probably talking about Tate, but she covers it up, no reason. I showed Mom the photo of the house. Look at this. Mom's eyes widened with fascination. Wow. That's the house. I smile. Yeah, Violet, when it was first built. Mom looks at all of the stuff that we brought with us back from the attic. Where'd you two find all this stuff? Violet, in the attic. I hand her another photo. That's the original owners. Violet, Nora and Charles Montgomery. Hayden walks in on Nora sobbing. Good God, woman. You've got to knock this shit off. Nora looks, almost insulted by what was just said to her. I beg your pardon. Hayden clarifies, the crying. You've got to get it under control. You're making me nuts. Nora still has not mentally put it together in her head. I'm very confused. What are you doing in my house? Hayden clarifies once again, I am stuck here like the others. Like you. We died in here, and for whatever reason, we can't leave. Nora sadly smiles. What? Are you implying that you're dead? Hayden smiles. I'm not implying it. I'm saying it. Yeah. Dead. Dead as disco. Nora is still struggling. I don't understand. Hayden, of course you don't, honey. But you're not the only one. Hayden, there are other souls trapped in here. Innocent, beautiful souls, who never knew malice or anger. It's not fair that they're trapped in a place like this. It's heartbreaking. Hayden, then there are others who are just in on the game. They're bitches. We linger here with the living. No rest for them. No rest for us. It's this place. It has a hold on us. But that's not all. There's a power in it. Hayden, a power we can use. We can make ourselves unknown. And when we really need it, we can make ourselves known. And I have such a need. Sometimes I vibrate with such rage it terrifies me. Hayden, I act out. If we're supposed to fix our issues, we never can. It doesn't stick. Nora, what you're saying is madness. I'm not dead, Hayden, then how do you explain this, sweetheart? Nora cries when she feels the back of her head. What is that? Ugh. Hayden, looks to me like an exit wound. My guess is you are a bullet. And by the looks of those clothes, it was a long time ago. Nora questions, why would I do such a thing? Nora, was it because of my baby? Where's my baby? Hayden, did you lose your baby? Nora nods her head rapidly, yes. Hayden, I lost mine, too. It was never born. It's in the backyard, with the rest of me. Nora, it's not fair. Hayden, no, it's not. How come she gets to have two, and we don't get to have any? Nora, who? Hayden, the bitch that stole your house. Vivian. She already has 2 daughters. And what do we have? Nora, heartache. Hayden, she's having twins, you know. We should take those babies. One for you. One for me. Nora questions, we could do that. Hayden, we'll have to. We might even take Daisy too. Hayden, after all, they've gotta have mothers. You can't raise a baby in the loony bin. I couldn't sleep in the night, but when I woke up I felt even stranger. I saw a woman with straight brown hair and brown eyes to match. Her name is Hayden, she was my dad's mistress, and most recently, has been here at the house, a lot. She pets my hair. Can't sleep, young one. I answer her, no. She smiles, here. She puts Looney Tunes on the TV and we watch some cartoons together, when a question entered my mind. I ask her, Aunt Hayden. She looks at me, I ask her, what do you miss about Daddy? She repeats the question, what do I miss about Daddy? Hayden, everything. I miss his laugh. And his smile. And I miss his little nose that he gave to you. I miss every time The Wizard of Oz was on. I say, I love that movie. Hayden smiles at me, I know. Hayden, I would sing all the songs. Especially, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. You know what I miss the most about him? I ask, what? She says, getting to tell him how much I love him. I ask her, are you allowed to do that with anyone else? Hayden says, am I allowed? Your daddy, before everything happened, that seemed to be all he wanted, me finding somebody else. But I would tell him I can't because he's my one and only. I ask her, what did mommy say? She rolls her eyes, come on, kid. We all know what your mom would say to that. It just wasn't meant to be is all. That's another thing I miss about your father. He actually thought I was awesome. I say to her, I think you're awesome, Aunt Hayden. She smiles, thank you. She sings me a lullaby, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. My eyes close, and that's all I remember. I wake up a little while later, to my mother shaking me, Daisy, wake up. We are leaving this house now. We are going to stay at your Aunt Jo's. We got our bags and left the house. We don't have to be prisoners to this house anymore, is what my mom said, as she put the keys into the car's ignition to start up its engine. In the back were Bianca's friends, this time with blood and the reeks of death all over them. I know you, bitches, the man said as he looked to my mom and older sister. We actually didn't leave the house that night. We attempted to leave, but the people freaked us out, so we stayed. To this day, I wonder what sparked my mom's spontaneous moment to try and leave the house that night. Ben's POV. When the next morning arrived, Vivian told me everything. It was easy to say that I was not at all thrilled by what I was hearing from Vivian. I can't believe you were trying to take my daughters out of state. I continue, I won't let you do it, Vivian. I will not allow you to separate Violet and Daisy from me, or those babies. Vivian tries to reason with me, you're missing the point, Ben. The people who tried to murder your wife and your eldest daughter were here last night. I state, the police say there was no evidence of anyone. Vivian shouts, I know what the police said. I continue to state, they don't even think they're in California. There was a report of a similar home invasion in Wisconsin. Vivian tries to reason with me, they were 6 inches from my face. Ben, I stand firm, you never fully dealt with this. She groans, it makes sense that in times of stress you would feel this way, Vivian. She freaks out, I swear to Christ if you're about to diagnose me with post-traumatic shock syndrome, I am gonna bash your goddamn face in. I give. Fine. Let's discuss the brain eating. I continue, let's talk about the dangers of ingesting raw organs. Mad cow disease, Vivian. Have you ever heard of that? Vivian, if you don't believe me, go talk to your daughters. Violet and Daisy were there, too.
Vivian, you know, you can't force us to stay in the state of California. You can't. 'Cause I'm getting out of this house. I am booking us tickets to Florida. I say, I'll go to the courts if I have to. You're mentally unstable, Vivian. I say, you're seeing things, Vivian, I'm seeing things. She says it with a tone of disbelief and sarcasm in a mix. Vivian, you mean the way you were seeing your little 10-year-old mistress? I say, you're being stupid, Vivian. The only stupid thing that I did was not changing the alarm code after I kicked your ass out of here. Did you give it to her? Is that how she's been getting in here? I don't listen to her, Vivian, you're coming unhinged. Vivian insists, you never stopped seeing her. You went to Boston to see her, and one of your patients attacked us. Jesus, Ben. I drew myself to a line of confusion. What the hell are you saying? Vivian, you planned this whole thing with your little whore. Did you plan to gaslight me? I am at the end of my rope, oh my God. Vivian, did you plan to get rid of me, so that she could come in, and take my place? I say, this is crazy talk. She pulls out the black latex suit. What is this? My eyes widen. Where did you get that? Vivian, it was out somewhere so that I would see it. Did you tell her about our kinky night? Put it on for her. I wanted to answer her honestly, but I have no memory of us having a kinky night, really, ever since moving into the house. I say to her, put it on. I threw this out months ago, which I did. Violet walks in with Daisy. What's going on? Violet asks. Vivian stood there with a mix of confusion and horror on her face. Vivian, honey, would you please just tell your dad about last night? I say to my eldest daughter, go on, honey. It's okay. Violet, I saw Mom really upset. Vivian, just tell him what you saw. What you told the police. Violet, I told them what I thought you wanted me to tell them. I didn't see anything. And, in that one moment, Violet betrayed our mother, Violet. Violet, I'm sorry, Mom. I don't know what you saw. I couldn't believe what I was seeing in front of my own eyes, what I was hearing. Violet, you were so upset, so I was upset. I still am. Daisy was frightened. I say, I still am. I run out of the room crying. Tate's POV. I sat in the corner, hearing the whole conversation, argument Violet and my little princess had with their parents. The children had the conversation with them, while their parents had another argument earlier. Hayden comes up to me, look at little Lord Fauntleroy. Writing sorrowful sonnets in your head to that little nightingale bitch. Adieu, nightingale. Thy plaintive anthem fades. I correct her, that's Keats. She snaps, who gives a shit? You're like a girl, sulking down here in the basement, instead of doing something about what's really bothering you. I honestly reply, I'm tired of hurting people. Hayden asks me, do you want her to go away? Do you want Daisy to go away? Your little princess. She gives me puppy eyes to resemble Daisy, cause Vivian booked their tickets. I heard her. You know what you have to do. I say, yeah. I do. I just have to prepare myself. It's not fun. I had something, but I could never do that to Daisy. She honestly looks at me and replies with, oh, not to Daisy, hell no.
My mom is not here. He tried to kill my dad. Now, he is trying to have a Romeo and Juliet moment with my sister, particularly, the death scene. Addie is gone. Moira, nowhere to be seen, and Constance is gone as well. I feel like I have nobody. My sister and I run into each other, while she is screaming, "Help! Dad!" With Tate running after her, she picks me up and I cry, "Violet! The monster is chasing us." The monster meaning Tate. She comforts me while running, "It's okay. He is not going to hurt you. I will not let him." She tried to run us out of the house, only to have us appear in the house's kitchen. Tate was right there in front of us. I point at him, and I scream with tears running down my face with fear, "Ah! Monster! Monster! Daddy!" I was hoping that this was all a nightmare, and that I was going to wake up soon. But that could not have been farther from the truth. Violet was just as confused as I was. "What's happening? What did you do to me?" Tate was still talking about wanting to go through with the whole death thing with my sister. "Violet, Dad. Where are you? Help us. Tate, Violet. Daisy. Stop running." We tried to go out the same way, only to come back in the same way as well. We tried it again and again, but it did not work at all. Violet begins to cry and sob. It was really upsetting to witness. "Please, Tate, please. I don't want to die, Tate, it's too late for that." Violet begins to pant, but I was really confused. She cradles me in her arms and in her lap. Tate sits at our height. "Violet. Listen to me. Violet, why am I running around, carrying my sister like a crazy person? Did you drug me? Tate, I'm not going to hurt either of you. I have to show you something. And then you both are free to go wherever you want. I promise I won't stop either of you. You guys have to trust me." I say to him, "It's kind of too late for that." But, I did not have a choice in the matter. Violet sets me down and stands up. We hold hands and we follow Tate down to the basement. Tate turns a light on, as we walk down a hallway. A cabinet hinges creak as he opens it. "Violet, I feel weird. I feel like I'm losing it." Tate crawls in first, and I felt uncomfortable as he helped me crawl in next. I then helped my sister crawl into the corridor. It was very dark, as we crawled like the people in the army. There were a lot of bugs in here, and it was completely disgusting. I chose to block those out, or else, I would have thrown up. Violet screams, "Ah! It's so disgusting down here." She couldn't have been more right, as we continued to follow Tate, who had the flashlight. Violet sobs as Tate points the flashlight down, at her dead, decaying, rotting corpse. My sister is dead. I immediately wanted to panic, and I began to cry and sob even more, like my sister. I scream, "Oh! Violet!" I sob, "This is all my fault. I'm so sorry, Violet." They both hug me, "No. It's not your fault. You have nothing to do with this." I look at them and I say, "How am I ever going to explain this to Dad?" I cry into Tate, "Oh no." Violet realizes, I died when I took all those pills. Tate cries with me as he holds me, "I tried to save you. I did. I tried to make you throw them up. You threw up some. Not enough. My sister has been dead since then." My sister hugs me as we wail together, "You took so many, Violet. My sister, dead. We were going to be each other's maid of honor, we were going to watch each other's children, when we became mothers. Tate, you died crying. That is the worst thing to hear. When my sister and I passed away, of course, I wanted my sister to be happy. Tate, I held you. You were safe. You died, loved. Violet, I hardly feel anything. Tate, I didn't want the both of you to find out this way. You, Daisy, or your parents. I had this idea that if you chose to die, Violet, with me, you wouldn't be so sad. I never wanted you to see this." Tate starts to whimper, "I'm so sorry, Violet. I'm so sorry, Daisy." We all share a group hug as we cry together. My dad is planning to pick up my mom, and release her from the crazy house. My dad told us to pack our stuff, because my mom is planning to give birth at my Aunt Joe's house. My mom refuses to go back to the house, but here, I am, with Billie Jean in the house while she examines the bad energy that we have here in the place, so much pain here. So much longing and regret. Fear. Sadness. Guilt. Constance adds, and perversion. Now, can you ferret out the fairies for us? I mean, that's our main concern at the moment, Billy. Targeting a particular spirit is going to be difficult. Violet's goal concludes of getting rid of the spirits inside the house, at least the bad ones, that way that it could become a safe house for my parents and I. Billy, this is a very crowded house. Billy must have sensed that my sister is dead, because she and my sister shared a very strange look between one another, one that is full of understandings. Constance, so what can we do? Billy, somehow, we have to try and dislodge them from the paramagnetic grip of this place. The evil. It's a force just like any other. Pure physics. Real and powerful. Created by events. Events that unleash psychic energy into the environment, where it's absorbed. Billy, like the way a battery stores energy. You'll see it all the time in places like prisons or asylums. Negative energy feeds on trauma and pain. It draws those things to it. Billy, the force here in this house is larger than the many individual traumas. And it has a need. It wants to break through. It wants to move in our world. It's using those trapped between this world and the next as conduits. Constance comments, that's very interesting. We were interrupted, when Billy shouts, he can't be here. We all look at Tate. Violet and I, Tate, Constance clarifies, that's my boy. That's right, Tate is Constance's son. Constance, from what I know has 4 children, Tate, who has to have been the oldest. Addie, who was her youngest, before her untimely and unfortunate death. She has Beau, who is up in the attic but I have yet to meet her final child. Constance, that's Tate. Billy sees him, I want to help. Billy, you've helped enough. Constance whispers to him to leave, and he does. I come back later, to join them. I hear Billy say, happened when America was known as the New World. Violet and me were bewildered. What? Violet, are you kidding? That's, like, 500 years ago. Billy, spirits do not follow our physical laws. Nor are they affected by time. About the only thing they have in common with the living is their suffering. Billy, regret. Pain. Loneliness. Violet has finally told Dad that she died. She tells him, once you die in this house, you don't get to leave. That's why you need to take Mom and Daisy somewhere safe. Dad, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Mom screams for my dad, as he grabs my sister and I and he takes out of the house. My mom was screaming because she is having contractions, even though she is only 6 months pregnant. Constance helped my mom get into the house. When a child is ready to be born, there's no stopping it. We've got to get you into the house. My mom shouts, no. That is not what she wanted to do. Violet, I took some pills. I didn't mean to kill myself. Constance brings my mom into the house. Dad, what's wrong? Mom, the babies are coming. My mom screams, as Constance instructs her to breathe through the painful contractions. Mom, I gotta get to the hospital. Constance, it's too late for that. You're already crowning. Just as my father saw the twin boys, who died in this house, the powering of the house went out, and it became pitch black in the house. Daddy, I'm scared. He holds me beside him, and comforts me. Constance, it's time. Candles lit up the hallway, as my mom began to give birth to my new twin siblings. There was Dr. Charles, leading the operation. Dad, we have to get her out of here. Maria and Gladys were helping Charles with my mother's delivery. Constance slaps my dad, wake up. This house is trying to help. And, right now, you are in no position to refuse. Your wife needs you. So you better pull yourself together and get in there. For her. Constance kept me by her side, protecting me from the screams of my mother, and so that my father could help my mother in these times. My mother squeezed my dad's hand, as sweat ran down her face. But then, Dr. Charles, your baby is stillborn. The child parented by my mother and father, sadly, passed away in my mother's womb. I hugged Charles, and he sighed hugs me. He can't hug me, because his gloves are covered in my mother's blood. I ask, is it a boy or a girl? Mom, can I hold it? It was good that Dr. Charles, Nora's husband, took the baby away, because I don't think my mother could have handled it, her baby dying, after she had a miscarriage not too long ago. My mother started to scream again, as the second baby was well underway to being delivered. I hear the voices of Violet and a man down the hallway, you're wrong. Tate's changed. The man says, oh. When did he change? When he murdered me? When he murdered my boyfriend? Or did he change, when he raped your mother? If I had a drink, I would have spit it out, what? Tate raped my mother. Violet, what? That's a lie, the man answers, is it? I think you're about to find out. My mother screamed to no end's delight as my half-sibling was coming. Charles, push. Push. My mom, it's ripping me apart. My heart beats rapidly as I see my mom scream. I then hear the cries of a baby, and long behold, there was the baby. The surviving one. My half-sibling. But, my mother was still bleeding. They separated my mother from my half-sibling. As Constance took the baby away, I followed her. Constance washed my newborn sibling, and got him cleaned up. Moira was right there, admiring the baby. Moira puts her hand on my shoulder. Constance whispers, what's the matter with you? Moira, he's the most beautiful baby I've ever seen. I have a new half-brother. Constance, from blood and pain comes perfection. I knew I had to go and see my mom, Violet. Daisy. We held her hands, you did so good, Mommy. She smiles at me, all in a day's worth, sweetheart. Violet, let go. You can be with me, Dad, don't die. I realize what was happening, Dr. Charles was not able to save my mother, Mommy. No. Daddy, don't die on me, Vivian. We can still have a life together. We can still be happy. She looks to me and she says, Daisy, I love you, always. I'm so sorry. And it was, then and there, that my mother has now passed away. I have now sadly lost my mother and my sister to this house. Now, Tate has a son. Daisy and I have a new half-brother. Ben has a stepson. My mom has a new baby. I look at Tate, who laid on my bed, my mom is dead, Tate, I'm so sorry. I know Daisy and you were close with her, I say, yeah. We were. My dad and sister are all alone down there now. Tate, that makes me sad. I love Daisy. I like your dad. He was nice to me. Your sister adored me. I say, he's nice to all his patients. Daisy is just a sweetheart. I add, even the ones who lie to him, he looks at me like I am nuts, what? I answer, why did you start seeing him in the first place? Constance thought you needed help. Tate, I did. I do. I say, you knew you were dead, Tate had no choice but to truthfully answer me, yeah, I ask, do you know why? He says, the cops shot me. Right here in this room. I ask again, why? Why did they shoot you? Tate, I don't know, I state, you murdered people, Tate. Kids. Like us. The kids that came to us on Halloween. Tate, why would I do that? He sobs, no. Why would I do that? I don't know, I continue, why'd you kill those guys who lived here before us? Why would you rape my mother? He continues to cry, I'm sorry. I was different then, I say, I used to think you were like me. You were attracted to the darkness. But, Tate, you are the darkness. He shakes his head, no. Before you, before Daisy. That's all there was. You both are the only light I've ever known. You both have changed me, Violet. I rub his face, I believe that. I love you, Tate. But, I can't forgive you. You have to pay for what you did. All the pain you caused. All the sorrow. You murdered my mother. He shakes his head, no. I yell, you did. I state, that baby whatever it was it killed her. I can't be with you. I won't be with you. Daisy won't either. Tate, what are you saying? I say, I'm saying go away. Tate, what? No, don't do this. I repeat, go away, Tate, Tate, you and Daisy are all I want. You're all I have. I shout, go away. When I open my eyes, he is gone. And, it is just me in my depressed bedroom. My mom comforts me, that was very brave. I'm proud of you, I cry, Mom. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry you had to die. I'm sorry you lost your baby. I'm sorry that you can't be with Daisy. She says, but I didn't lose my baby. I didn't lose Daisy. I was worried that I would lose my dad next. With the deaths of my mother and sister, I was really worried that I was going to end up as an orphan. I went over to see my brother, who smiles at me. I start to play with him, while my dad talks with Constance. There are forces in that house that mean to do this child and Daisy grave harm. Constance, the same forces that killed your sweet wife. Oh, and what about your daughter Violet? Tell me, Dr. Harmon, did you buy a casket for Violet, too? Constance, if that house can claim her spirit. What's going to happen to this sweet little baby? And, to that sweet little girl? Dad, Daisy, and the baby are gonna be fine. Constance yells, you are a fool. After everything that you've seen. The baby starts to cry, so I take him in my arms, sweet baby. Don't cry. All of a sudden, when he looks at me, he stops crying, and instead smiles. Dad asks, where is he? He says after seeing a picture of Tate and Addie together. Constance answers, in his grave. Where he's been longer than he lived on this earth. Dad shouts, you destroyed my family. You. Constance, you are paying for your own sins, Dr. Harmon. Dad takes me and my new baby sibling back home. Daddy writes notes with the keys on the kitchen counter, as well as organizing papers on the counter as well. I left him by himself, so that he could spend some time in his office. I have so far not seen any sight of my mom or Violet, since the birth of my new brother. Vivian's POV. I just told Ben, I want you to take Daisy and the baby and get out of this house. He tells me, your sister said she would take care of them. She's a good mother. I tell him, no, I don't want that, Ben, what do you want? I say, I want to envision you with that boy on your shoulders, walking down Newbury Street. He asks me, what about Violet? What about Daisy? Violet appears, I'm a teenage girl. Not exactly a cakewalk. Violet holds Daisy on her lap, as Dad ducks down to the two girls, Violet. Daisy. What kind of father have I been? Ben, you weren't eating. You weren't going to school. You were already gone, and I didn't get it. Violet, I shut you out. I was afraid it would break you. I miss you so much. Violet, I was never getting into Harvard. But I saved you a shitload of money, Ben, yeah. You did. Violet, you have to leave, Dad. Every minute you're in this house. You're in danger, and so is Daisy, and so is that baby. Dad carries his bag in one hand, and the baby carrier in the other. I follow closely behind him. Then Hayden appears, where are you going, Ben? You didn't think I'd just let you leave? Dad, get out of my way, Hayden. I don't have time for your bullshit. Suddenly, someone tightens a rope around my father's neck. It was the people from before, when the house was invaded. I screamed when I saw them. I grabbed the baby, and ran out of the house to Constance next door. Those people killed my father, and made his death look like an accident. They made it look like he killed himself. I pounded on the door constantly. Constance. Constance. Please help me. She opens the door, and she cradles me in her arms. Oh, honey. It will be okay. We'll figure it out. I stayed with her for that night, and then we called my Aunt Jo, and I moved down to live with her in Florida. She is very nice, especially to take me in and raise me on such short notice. After my sister killed herself with a drug overdose. After my mom died during childbirth. After Hayden, Bianca and her Halloween gang killed my father, and made it look like an accident. Made it look like he committed suicide. I still am Daisy. I just now live in Florida, with my Aunt Jo, as my legal guardian. No mom. No dad. No sister. No brother. Tate's POV. Ever since the deaths of Violet, Vivian and Ben. With the baby gone. That means that Daisy is gone too. Daisy now lives with her aunt in Florida. I blame them. I blame these people for making Daisy leave this house. It's not fair. And it's not right. If it wasn't for that baby, Vivian would still be alive. If it wasn't for me, then Daisy would be here, living in this house. It is all my fault.